Within minutes into the new year, the system was flooded with hundreds of reports of shots fired. The center says this was the biggest interruption it's had since at least 2014. WRTV's Rachael Wilkerson has the story.
I'm told within 90 seconds, Marion County dispatchers received around 310 911 calls that flooded the system and didn't let up.
What we saw as a society was what you typically see in a mass casualty incident.
Director of the Marion County 911 Center, Michael Hubb, says shortly after the clock hit midnight, there were more calls for help than dispatchers could handle, and there was a failure in the AT&T system.
As of now, they believe there was 1,130 incoming 911 calls within approximately a 2-hour period from midnight to 2 a.m.
Hubb says the majority of the calls were reports of shots fired, despite warnings from the sheriff's office and IMPD against firing weapons.
New Year's Eve, we dispatched 427 incidents of people firing guns into the air, and that's probably not even a quarter of the percent of the calls that we were able to get to.
In many calls, he says dispatchers could hear gunfire in the background.
It's bad. Our dispatchers have to answer those calls. I answered some of those calls. Some of these citizens calling in scared for their lives because they're in their house. Bullets were going through homes. IMPD and other agencies in the county have responded to locations where homes were riddled with bullets.
Callers who couldn't get through to a Marion County dispatcher weren't placed on hold, but were in a queue where surrounding agencies could answer the call. Hubb says not every call could be taken.
The statistics were so enormous. There's no 911 center. All those 911 centers combined can't handle those calls. No one can.
The text 911 system and their ability to dispatch first responders weren't impacted, but Hubb says it was frustrating a technology failure wouldn't allow their roughly 40 dispatchers to answer the calls for help.
We're holding everybody involved accountable because there needs to be an explanation as to why our dispatchers couldn't answer those calls. Now, don't get me wrong, there were more calls than what we would have been able to answer, but at some point, we couldn't even hardly answer any.
Hubb says the call center was fully operational by 1:30 in the morning. An investigation into the system failure is ongoing, and he says more information will be available tomorrow. Working for you, I'm Rachael Wilkerson, WRTV.
Hubb says the Marion County 911 system receives more than 1 million calls a year and is usually within the top 10 call centers in the country. He says outages like the one they experienced on New Year's Eve was rare.